Hello and welcome to Habits of Influence podcast. This is the podcast version on all major podcast platforms as well as YouTube. If you're with us on YouTube, hi, hello, I'm waving at you. It's great to see you again. If you are listening to us on a podcast, hello. For those that are coming back and for those that are new, welcome. We sit down every single week with my co-host Ian Mannheimer and we talk about all things life and business, except that we are not giving tips and tricks. We are actually indirectly mentoring you because there's a lot of podcasts that talk about marketing and sales and all that other shebang. But what we want to focus on is you being able to build your influence in business, regardless of what business you are in, and create a movement of people that would love to follow you. So this is basically the gist of our podcast. Hello, Ian. It's awesome to see you again.
Awesome to see you as well. It's always a pleasure.
So today, for those that don't know, I usually surprise Ian with topics, so he never knows what we're going to talk about, which is super fun. And he loves it.
You get the real, the raw, and the unfiltered version. Let's go.
Absolutely. Well, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So today's topic that I wanted to talk about, and I have mentioned it to you, Ian, is it's something that just doesn't sit right with me, okay? And I know that we're going to have probably a lengthy conversation because I kind of know where you stand on those topics, but it's hard to avoid things that are happening in the public that are influential because they are considering very influential people. And specifically, well, there's been some very loud cases recently that we need to discuss, and the topic that came out of it is women that use men's careers to kind of uplift their own careers. So yeah, how do you like this one?
Let's get some controversy going. Let's go.
Ooh, yes, I can't wait. But before we do begin, I have an exciting information, and I know that we did not completely agree on it, but the public has chosen. We now have an official intro for the podcast. Woo! And I wanted you to see it right now. So we are going to quickly roll the intro, and then we go straight to today's episode. Hello and welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Habits of Influence, a project by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of building a movement, and hopefully provide insight, as well as motivation for your business journey. Through the combined expertise of 34 years in business, your hosts, Magdalena Hanna and Ian Mannheimer, are here to empower and indirectly mentor you whilst you become the person others wish to follow. All right, and we're back. How did you like the intro? If you're with us on YouTube, we would love your comments in the comment section. Please leave us a few words of encouragement, or I don't mean you can slag it off, but please be gentle. I mean, I worked really hard on it. I'm really pleased with it, and it's fun. We can always change it. But yes. So again, I wanted to say welcome to Habits of Influence, which is all about influence. Once a week, me and my lighter and more generous and kinder co-host is actually discussing various topics with me that are tied into business, but they are more deeper life discussions that kind of create that sort of connection or tie-in of what kind of person you are when you go into business, what things you should be looking at. Like I said, it's indirect mentoring. This is not tips and tricks for marketing, tips and tricks from sales, or tips and tricks of growing your business. But if you do listen carefully, and if you are discerning, you are going to take out a lot of value. At least I think so. So today's
And to piggyback on that, but additionally, on top of that, you may find stuff that you don't like and it doesn't resonate with you, and that's okay as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if it doesn't resonate with you, then probably you will stop listening. But if you do resonate with us and you love what we have to say, or if you want to actually get into the conversation and you find the topics interesting, absolutely by all means subscribe. We are on all major podcast platforms as well as YouTube if you like to see our faces. And yeah, and interact with us, because essentially YouTube is great for comments. You can interact with us there. You can leave us some words of encouragement. You can leave us your opinion, and we're very, very eager and interested in reading all of your stuff. So yeah, today's topic, Ian, you can't avoid it. Just start it. What do you think?
It's controversial, that's for sure. I've seen both sides, and we've shared briefly about this in the past. People in general that use other people, it's not. I struggle with it. It's just, I don't understand why it's hard to just be a good human being, and how we can just be not using other people for our own benefit. And I see it all the time, not just in the business world, but like you mentioned earlier, in Hollywood and different places, people get together for fame, for status, for all sorts of reasons to elevate themselves or make themselves look more important, make themselves look better, to get the next step up to where they want to be, and they don't care who they step on in the process. And is that kind of the direction you're going in, like that aspect?
Yeah, or blatantly just narcissistically, or through manipulation, just using people for their own benefit, or out of jealousy, out of spite, trying to destroy them, which was the recent very loud case. We're not going to name names, because YouTube is very angry recently about naming names, so those names especially. So let's just leave it at that. I think everybody knows which trial we are talking about, the very recent one, the very loud one. Yeah, that was out of jealousy, that was out of spite, and that was just to boost that woman's own agenda and own reputation, which kind of ended up in thankfully backfiring against her, because because she was just spreading massive lies. And it didn't have there was no proof, there was no basis to it, and it ended up in basically the whole world hating her. So I mean, that happens, but there's also situations like Will Smith's situation, Jada Pinkett Smith, completely different thing. Like, you can't really compare the two, although those are the last the glue that ties both cases together is using men's famous status, or whatever that those men have achieved, and using it for your own purposes. Except in Jada's case, it's just pure manipulation, and just using the fact that, well, Will Smith is one of the most known actors in the world, probably very, very wealthy, surely very influential. But look what happened now. Will Smith is nowhere to be found, whereas Jada is like having the time of her life, sailing through the awards and accolades. It was a mistake. Again, I'm not defending Will Smith, because attacking somebody is never good. Violence is never good, and obviously we have to say that, and we have to mention that. It's very, very important. But I also believe, I actually feel sorry for the guy. I actually feel that he did not deserve this to happen to him. And now just seeing absolute zero zero taking of responsibility on her end, or addressing it, which obviously it happened because it was concerning her. Chris Rock made a joke about her on the stage of the Oscars, which, for God's sakes, has always been part of the Oscars. But yeah, regardless, I don't want to get into too much of the pop culture stuff, because that's not our topic. But the fact of the matter is, there's more and more cases like that, and those prominent ones, the Hollywood ones, just show a bigger, wider problem. Because I have seen it in my own world. I have seen it in a business world, where people work together and they just kind of clash. I had a situation like that when I was competing with one of my exes, when we were running a dance school together. So I know it exists. I know that this kind of competition, if you are working in the same environment, especially, can lead if one person has those tendencies, can lead to using one of the people that is more talented or more established or more rich or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm curious on your take. I mean, I can see it with women mainly. Sadly,
Well, I want to touch on one thing because you brought up Will Smith, and I'm a huge fan of Will Smith. I absolutely love Will Smith. I love his acting. I love him as a person. I follow his motivational videos. I just absolutely love Will Smith. And you know, you talked about his acting. You talked about his wealth, things like that. But also, he was a very well respected actor.
yeah,
Everyone knows him and says, "Oh, Will Smith, he's such a good person. He's
yeah,
great." And he is a phenomenal person. And he had a momentary lapse of judgment. He went up there and reacted on emotion, and as a result has major consequences happening now.
yeah,
So this may be a little off topic, but something, and maybe we can circle back to this, but something to think about is how how important is it for us to maintain our composure even when we're upset? How sometimes one little action that we do has a huge domino effect that can theoretically ruin somebody. So it doesn't matter
absolutely.
how successful you are, doesn't matter how well you're liked in the community, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You do one thing wrong, so to say, one big thing, or something that's perceived as incorrect in the public's eye, and you could theoretically be throwing away everything you worked your whole
Mm,
life for. I
mm.
mean, I remember Will Smith, before Fresh Prince of Bel Air was, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. They had that. My first song, I remember Parents Just Don't Understand from Will Smith. He was probably a teenager, if that, and he worked his ass off, to my language. He worked his
Yeah.
ass off
See,
to
that's
get
the
where he
saddest
was.
part. He's really hardworking. There's so many years behind him, and like you said, lapse of judgment, the bigger the influence, the bigger the responsibility of handling
Yes,
yourself correctly, right?
absolutely, absolutely, and we're always in the public's eye, and something I try to instill with my kids, or I try to tell other people that I mentor, whether it's business or people that work for me or whatever, is we're always being watched. So whether you have a company shirt on or not, whether you're in a business environment or not, we're being watched.
Yeah.
So being cognizant of what we do, how we act, how we treat people, how we go about um, just how we carry ourselves is going to be a huge determination on how we end up in the long run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the reason of bear in mind, business world. Man, and especially, what I do, I'm in personal branding. There was so many people that disappeared. They were at the top of their game, bear in mind, and they disappeared because of one mistake. Wrong conduct, or being caught on lying, or being caught on being deceitful, or being caught offending somebody. I'm not going to name names, but there was a huge case where a lady was very, very, very prominent. She was selling a lot of books. She was trying to present herself as like, you and me, just to sell those books. And then she kind of, during COVID, obviously, a lot of people struggled mentally, but I think she couldn't handle the pressure. And sadly, she slipped up really badly, but to the point badly that she's probably never, ever going to be able to revive her career.
It's brutal. It is. It's so brutal. Um, I know a few incidents in my area where that's happened. People have built up great organizations and make a mistake, and all of a sudden they're no longer in town. They're run out. They're zero support and shut down, and it's really heartbreaking. It truly is heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people deserve what they get because, sometimes it's a case, like I said, it's lying, cheating, stealing, kind of like, quote unquote. And the person that I mentioned was actually offensive. She was offensive and she was conning people, scamming people. So sometimes um the consequence, I mean, always the consequence is, if you do something in a public eye, and in a public eye, I don't mean that you have to be a celebrity or an influencer, or you don't even have to have a personal brand. Bear in mind, in our product brands or in our service brands that are not necessarily as much online as they are offline, you still have to mind what you do. When I was running my school, it was before social media. I still had to mind what I was doing, right? Because people were observing me. If I went to an international festival, or I was interacting with people, everything that I said and did was always watched and always judged. So, like I said, the bigger the influence, the bigger the responsibility, right?
It's always a reflection of who you are in your business. And I think we're two different types of situations. One is like what you're talking about, where you have somebody who is intentionally scamming people or lying or being disrespectful generally, versus somebody who makes one mistake, or
Yeah.
somebody who slips up and does one thing wrong in the public's eye and all of a sudden they're shut down. Yeah, I do believe people's actions determine their outcome. And sometimes people who are shady, let's just say, use the word shady, people who are shady, you know, eventually catches up to them and they get caught, and it's well deserved. And
Yeah.
then there's other situations where somebody makes a mistake one time and they're run through the ringer, and that's where I think there's a huge disservice that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the other situation though? When you are being wrongly accused and all of your hard work, years of your hard work are just they just disappear poof because nobody believes you. And why I wanted to specifically talk about men being destroyed, because believe it or not, I've tried to pull up some stats. I went online, Google, and tried to find how many men in the recent years have been wrongfully accused of different horrible stuff that we are not able to say on YouTube, for example. But DV, essay, stuff like that, and because of that, lost their careers. And when it comes to men, it usually takes just one word. We have established ourselves in an environment, in a community where you always believe women. Yeah, you always tend to believe women. If a woman accuses you of something, that means it must be true, because why would anybody lie about that? What I find about the recent case being so unprecedented and great is because finally this has ended. It does not sit well with me that we have to believe all women. And finally, it's a case where everybody sees like, well, hold on a moment, a woman can lie as well, right? But the thing is, with that case, he was accused wrongfully and he lost millions and millions of rules as a result of that, right? And how often is it that, well, I try to pull up stats. There are no stats. See, because it's not even tracked, it's not even watched. It's just a case of whenever I pulled out how many men lost their jobs as a result of whatever accusation, the only thing that pops up is feminist shit, like, oh, women are poorly treated in the workplace, underpaid women in something, majority of women that are the ones that lost their jobs during COVID, and men, the bad men, they kept their jobs. But there is nothing, even though we all know that it's happening, that it takes half a second, someone's wrongful accusations, and someone's hard work, all life, a whole career, whole established, beautiful career is just taken away in an instant.
This is a very touchy subject because it goes both ways. I've seen horrible things men have done. I'm friends with a lot of them that
Absolutely. I'm not
know
I'm
that.
not I'm not
Yeah,
diminishing
yeah,
that, Ian.
no,
It's
no,
just
absolutely.
saying that there's so much information about women and the repercussions of what men do to women. But this was so many men that came out as a result of the trial and saying, I was actually wrongfully accused. I lost everything.
Yeah, and I can speak for myself as a male, as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a parent. It's scary out there because, like you said, one person can say the wrong thing and your whole life is shattered. And it's a very sensitive subject. It's a very sensitive subject because you don't know who's going to react what way. You can just see somebody in the street and you say hello to them or smile and say, "Oh, I like that dress or I like those shoes," and people think that you're being inappropriate, and you could have total innocence, or vice versa. Like I said, a lot of men create a bad name for a lot of people, but it's a very fine line. And we live in a society now that everything is like so padded, so protected, everything's offensive. No matter what you do, you're wrong. And it's a weird, really weird transition that we're in right now about this too. And so going off what you said, it's yeah, it's good to see when actual facts and actual evidence come into play, and the truth is revealed and not anybody can say anything, get away with it, is a nice feeling. I
Yeah.
guess that's a good way to say it.
Not guilty unless proven guilty, right? It's just we can't just go with people's words. I mean, it works with everything. It works with accusations, it works with, BS that is being presented as a fact, and online by the media, by people, themselves, by entrepreneurs. But yeah, what I wanted to say is, of course, I mean, like you have touched a very, yeah, a very sensitive subject there because you said about, comments towards women and stuff like that. I have a very intense stance on that because I am a woman who had been complimented many times, where some compliments are very, very innocent and lovely and absolutely, but if you get them all the time, they're starting to be a little bit abusive. And the reason why women react this way and not another is if you're walking down the street and this is like the 50th time that you've heard something,
Mhm.
now it's starting to bother you, right? So there's the lack of that mutual understanding because I think it's like either we're shouting, yeah, we're feminists, we hate men, or we love men and we're kind of like a little bit submissive, but there is no like that balance in between, like, come on, just understand my point of view, right? So that's kind of like it's a very fluid topic, I wanted to say. And hey, I'm not hating on women, I'm just saying that is more prominent in the recent years, that it's the women that are more manipulative. And I have my own story of manipulation from a woman, so it doesn't have to be necessarily targeted at men, right? I had a best friend, let's say it, that was my right hand in my first business in my dance school, and she was helping out with preparation of different events, setting up the lighting, videotaping, editing, stuff like that, just helping out with the customers and with the general technical setup. And I was wondering because, me and my ex-partner, we were running this school in a fairly innovative way. We were like having really new ideas that nobody else had done before. But, very quickly, our competition started catching up before we actually released different things. And, going clue after clue after clue, it turns out that this girl that was presenting herself as my best friend, she was actually taking those ideas because she was the only insider that knew everything before it happened. Do you understand? And she was just like, for her own advantage, she always wanted to be like the center of attention. She was going to my competition and just giving all of our ideas to our competition as and when we were thinking of them. So it's not new, but it's
So,
just more prominent in the recent years.
so basically, what you're saying is you were kind of stabbed in the back by somebody who you thought was your best friend,
Yeah.
and they were, I don't want to say they were working for somebody else, but they basically gave out information of what you're trying to do to build somebody else's business. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, she just wanted attention because it. What you need to understand, okay, I need to provide some background. Dancing world is very competitive, and it's
Very good.
very slimy and vicious. It's lovely, it's beautiful, but it's also, stabbing in the
Cutthroat.
back is quite common. It's fairly common,
It's a very
and
cutthroat
everybody
industry.
has an agenda, yeah, behind doing certain things. So. Um, God knows what her agenda was. I don't want to know. I'm not interested today. Thankfully, we got rid of her on time. I mean, I got rid of her on time because at this time I was no longer working with my ex-partner. Um, and I just set up a whole new team, and she didn't know what was going on, and we kind of moved forward, moved past that. But there was a danger that I could have lost everything because somebody had an agenda to kind of promote themselves in one way, shape, or form. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and that industry is such a cutthroat industry as well. I mean, you hear of dancers like sabotaging another dancer just to get the lead role, and it's they want to be front and center. So let's eliminate the one in front of me.
You're talking about Black Swan, are you?
I'm not familiar with that, but I've just seen it's a lot of cutthroat stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's, the worst thing is now I'm in an environment which is exhibits very similar tendencies, right? Because as you know, I'm a consultant. Coaches consultants are starting to kind of, grow to the level of scam. As in like in our minds, it's like it is just so unprofessional what's going on in this world, and everybody fighting instead of just realizing that collaboration is the only way forward, because there's just so many of us that it's much easier to kind of group together and help each other. When the tide rises, all ships go up. That sort of stuff. But you know, it's not happening. It's just like it's constant backstabbing and constant bad mouthing. And the amount of unprofessionalism is just insane. So I ran away from dancing because I had enough of that toxicity and I ended up here. So
Well, going off what you're saying, it's very true, and it's not just in the coaching world or any of that. It's everywhere. I mean, we even see it in politics. And instead of what I find really interesting now, and I really would love to get away from this shift, is we have shifted from what is it that we do and how we help people to what everyone else is doing wrong. When did our focus become what everyone else is doing wrong instead of what we're doing right? Or how did our focus shift to pointing fingers and shit talking other people and putting people down and being negative and, you know, trying to slander other people, just like you said, to get ourselves, elevate ourselves without any proof or without any justification or without any, what is our solution? How are we better than what we're talking shit about? Does that make
yeah.
sense?
I mean, it's a very old saying that you're not going to. I don't remember how it goes exactly, but something along the lines of like, you're not going to shine brighter if you take out somebody else's shine or dim somebody else's shine, something along those lines. And it's true. But again, it's my point again. It's women that in majority, at least, in my business environment right now, those are the most vicious, bad mouthing people out of them all. There's a new marketing trend of kind of and usually perpetuated by women coaches. I've noticed that because I've been looking online. I'm just like, is that something new? It's like, what's going on here? But it turns out that it started repeating itself and repeating and repeating. You know how it is, with something catches in marketing, everybody does it. And it's this like sub story of like, oh, I had a really bad experience with a coach, and they were so abusive and horrible to me. And I've lost so much money, and I've lost my health, and here goes the pitch. So now I am doing it in a better way. I share your experiences with your toxic coach. Seriously. No, honestly, you're laughing, but that's the new trend. That's what's going on recently online.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is because it is repeating itself. It's just so ridiculous. Like, share your stories. Let's take our hands together. And then comes the pitch, like in this same very freaking sentence, in this same post that you're seeing about, it's like, oh my God, my life was so bad because of this coach. But that makes me an amazing coach.
Buy my program, do this,
Buy
sign up
my
for my course.
programs, you're going to find out what not to do. Oh my God.
Yeah. I signed up for this program and it was horrible and I didn't know anything about the person going in and this and that. And I was really jaded. So I created my own program. You should buy it, even though you don't know who I am. Yeah.
Exactly. And by the way, this person's shit.
You what?
And by the way, this person's shit. It kind of
Oh, yeah.
comparisons. Like, I'm so great, but this person is not. So yeah,
Don't
that's
believe
it.
it. Don't believe anything you hear on the internet. Don't believe these people. They're all full of lies. I'm going to tell you the truth. That's why you need to pay for me.
Yeah, but have you noticed that men do it less often? I mean, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not hating on women. I just want to make a point here. Yeah, I know that there's another side. For a fact that I hate that those macho coaches that just go around like, oh, I'm so great because I run my business, I'm so productive. But then again, you have a wife at home that is taking care of everything, your house, your child. They're feeding them, they're clothing them, they're cleaning your house, they're cooking your dinner. All you have to bloody do is just show up in your business. So for God's sakes, I'm a single mother. I'm the guy and the girl. I clean up and I feed my child, and then I run quickly, and I record a podcast. Ugh. There's lots of things that I have to say about men, but today I just wanted to point out, have you noticed that all those like sleazy tactics, like, I'm going to make a bet for you so that I look better, it's majority women.
I haven't done enough research to say majority, but I have noticed a trend.
We're coming onto something now. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I'm not expecting that this is going to disappear very quickly, but hopefully, situations like recently where we start being a little bit more mindful. And what this has also uncovered is different things like, the media lies and stuff like that, and how the public is manipulated with certain information. Completely different topic for another time. But it has uncovered a lot of truths, a lot of important truths. Um, a lot of beliefs, kind of shattered a lot of beliefs that we used to have up until now, which is, for example, believe all women and women should be treated more leniently because they are, delicate flowers, that can be hurt and shit like that, if but I can see just the hypocrisy, from one side we're kind of presenting ourselves as the, like, more pretty gender that is just like, delicate and needs help and needs assistance, but from the other side we've got those women shouting, is like, oh, I've got the power, I'm the boss, I'm just as good as you and whatnot. And now, as every single movement, which is good from the very beginning, because yes, women needed more rights, yes, women needed more say, but like every movement, it's going too far now. So are we moving to the point of too far with, we are now going to destroy men? Why? If you're so strong and you're so great and you're so powerful as a boss woman or whatever, the hell, why do you need to destroy anybody else? Or why do you need to use anybody else's influence? Build your own. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and I think it's a great point. Is just because you're doing well doesn't mean you need to put somebody else down or knock them down or try to take them out or try to prove how much better you are. But I guess my question is, how do we create that shift? How do we find that balance? Where is that balance of the the woman that's that delicate flower and the super badass at the same time? And how do we make them the same person that is balanced? Where does that come from? And same thing with guys, because there's the whole toxic masculinity. There's all this. And where is that balance? How do we find that balance?
I think in the awareness and the understanding that we are multi-dimensional creatures. We are just not one thing or the other thing. We represent a lot of personalities, a lot of faces, a lot of emotions, and a lot of sides to us. And just accepting that we have different sides to us maybe could be the first little step towards, being a little bit more understanding towards one another. Um, and also, it's like with anything else, I have this predicament that if we didn't perpetuate, say, certain myths, then they would just die out, a slow and painless death. So it's the same with like racism, religion divisions, but things that are making people really divisive. Had we not been talking about it, had we not been perpetuating it non-stop over and over and over and over, maybe there would be a chance for us to kind of communicate and find, that balance, that middle road where everybody has the same chances, nobody has to, impose on anybody else's stuff. And there is no situation where women have to fight, and there is no situation when men have to, fight for their lives, not to lose their livelihoods, and custody battles, or career wise, or whatever it is else that women do to men, that is very, very damaging. But at the same time, we would have to find that balance of not putting women down, for them not to have to fight, not bad mouthing women for being less off, because we're not. I think we're all equal. Like I said, like multi-dimensional, and the balance and the understanding towards one another. I think that kind of sums it up. What do you think?
I would agree. And there's so many different layers. And maybe we
Mm.
can talk about it again another time and just kind of maybe brainstorm ideas on how to create a better balance, create a more security. Because I think a lot of times when people bash or try to slander or take somebody out, it's their own insecurities. That's really what it comes down to. You're putting yourself up as, I'm the super badass person, I'm this rock star, I'm amazing. So because I'm so good, I'm gonna be the best out there. And you don't really believe that. So you're trying to take other people out to stand higher because you're afraid you're gonna be in their shadow or something. And there's enough room for all of us in whatever space we're in. It doesn't matter what industry, there's enough room for everybody. And I don't think we need to take other people out to prove that. So how do we get to that mindset of, you know, yeah, I'm amazing as I am, doesn't mean other people aren't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that sums it up great. But guys, what do you think? Communicate with us. Write to habitsofinfluence@gmail.com and let us know your thoughts. Let us know also about the topics that you would like to discuss. And regarding today's one, if you could go to YouTube and just drop us a little comment, what do you think would have to happen so that would not have to feel that they need to fight for whatever it is that they're fighting for, and sometimes refer to things that are a little bit too much and go a little bit too far. And what would have to happen from the side of men so that women would feel appreciated? I would love to know your comments, and I'm sure Ian as well. So yeah,
Absolutely.
drop them over, and yeah, let's have a conversation.
Awesome. Until next time.
Yeah. Next time, guys, we're gonna see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye bye.
Bye.